Guys, we are going to do a quick fractions versus WKU review. So what we noticed is that when you guys are seeing fractions next to each other, you're not always looking at the symbol in the center. And the symbol in the center tells us what to do. So if it's multiplying, we have a rule for multiplying. If it's dividing, we have a rule for multiplying. And if it's equal, we have a rule for equal. So make sure that when you see fractions set up side by side, that you are looking to make sure you know what strategy, what rule are we using for that symbol. So let's start with our multiplication symbol. When we have a fraction and we're multiplying, we're going to use top times top, bottom times bottom. And if we have a whole number like 7, remember whole numbers go over 1. So I'm going to rewrite this just so they're side by side. 3/5 times 7 over 1. And then I'm going to show my top times top, bottom times bottom rule. And again, I knew I was going to use that rule or that strategy simply because of the multiplication symbol in the middle. So I have 7 times 3 is 21 and 5 times 1 is 5. So this is an improper fraction where we have a big cowboy and a small horse. And if you wanted to change it to a mixed number or a decimal, then you could use your cowboy and horse method, and you would get 5 goes into 21 for whole times, and then you would have 1 left over out of 5. Or you could say, if you cowboy and horse divide, it would be 4.2 or 4.20. Okay, so again, we're not so focused on this. I want you to remember looking at the symbol top times top, bottom times bottom. Okay, that's the rule for multiplying. All right, let's look at the rule for dividing. Okay, so remember we're focusing on our symbol. So in this section, the rule for dividing is keep, change, flip. Okay, so I'm going to write K, C, F. I'm going to keep it, change it, and flip it. Again, I knew to use that rule or that strategy because of the division symbol in the middle. All right, so now we are going to rewrite our problem. Okay, so keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep my first number for 17ths. Keep meaning it stayed exactly the same. Change means I'm going to change my division to multiplication. And now my flip is going to be the denominator becomes the numerator becomes the denominator. So my bottom of the fraction went to the top of the fraction went to the bottom. All right, now my symbol is multiplication. So I'm going to follow my top times top, bottom times bottom rule. So I'm going to draw my arrows. And I'm going to say, okay, 4 times 3 is 12, and 17 times 1 is 17. So again, if you had an improper fraction, meaning you had a big cowboy and a little horse, we would divide to either get a mixed number or a decimal. But in this case, we have a smaller cowboy and a bigger horse, so this is a regular fraction. If you needed to make it a decimal, you could cowboy and horse. Or if you needed to make an equivalent fraction, you could skip count or butterfly your answer choices. Okay, so lots of options on that. All right, and then the last one we're looking at is, in this case, we have an equal sign. So equal signs are saying, are these two fractions equivalent? Yes, because they have an equal sign. So what we're going to do is we are going to WK. This would be a WKU situation where we're going to cross multiply and divide. Okay, so we are going to multiply corner to corner. Okay, we're going to multiply corner to corner. So I have 2 times 15. And then whatever is left over, we're going to divide by the outside number. So we're going to divide by 3. So I'm going to multiply corner to corner and then divide by 3. So what is 2 times 15? Well, that is going to be 30. So this is 30, okay? And then 30 divided by 3, okay? And you can see that 30 divided by 3 is just 10. So what is x equal to? X equals 10. And that is the difference between multiplying, dividing, and WKU situations, okay? So let's break down some word problems to see which one are we going to use. So this one says, in Austin, Texas, 8 bats ate 40 grams of insects in one night. At this rate, how many grams of insects could 64 bats eat in one night? So you'll notice that I have 1, 2, and 3 numbers. And you'll notice that I underlined the word after the number. So of those 3 numbers, 2 of them have the same word. And so if I have 3 numbers and 2 matching words, that is a WKU. So what were my words? Bats and grams. Again, I got those straight from the problem. And then what do I know? I know the numbers that are in the same sentence together. Okay, I know the numbers that are in the same sentence together. So 8 bats and 40 grams is in the same sentence. So I'm going to put that in my 8 bats, 40 grams. Again, those were in the same sentence, so they end up in the same fraction. And then my question, my unknown, is going to be that number that's by itself. So 64 what? 64 bats. So this would be my unknown, and then we would solve corner to corner. All right, the next one, we're not going to solve. I just wanted to show you how to set it up. All right, the next one says, at a store, the ratio of the number of limes sold to the number of lemons is 2 to 3. So keyword here, ratio, and then they give us a ratio. Okay, and then it says, complete the table to show the relationship between the number of limes and the number of lemons sold. So you can see that we have limes and lemons, and we know the relationship was 2 limes for every 3 lemons. So this one, you could skip count. You could skip count all the way down to the 2 to the 24, to the 2 to the 42, and so on. And you could skip count your 3, and that would be okay. This is also a good representation of a WKU. So we could have a WKU with lemons and limes, and we could cross multiply and divide, okay? So this is another situation where you could skip count because it says the word relationship. You could do a WKU. You can also put that same ratio down here at the bottom and do that same WKU where we're cross multiplying and dividing. So again, it's totally okay. Oops, I should have circled the 108. Sorry, y'all. I got confused. And I wouldn't even use this middle section because there's nothing missing. So I would do a WKU down here and a WKU up here. Again, you could do these 2 and then divide by 2. So same WKU ratio strategy, or again, you could skip count all the way down. Totally up to you. All right, another example of a WKU relationship in a star problem looks like this. It says there are 63 dogs at a dog show. So that's going to be our total dogs. And it says ratio again. And it says the ratio of large to small is 4 to 3. So I would label large to small. And it says how many dogs at the dog show are small dogs. So again, this is a situation where they gave me 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3. And so I know I'm going to do a WKU or skip count, but I need to make sure I have my labels. So large, small, and total. And they want us to find small. So what we have to do is if you're going to skip count, you have to do large, small equals total. And so that would be like 4 large to 3 small is 7 total. And from there, you could skip down each list. You could skip down your large all the way down, your small all the way down, and your total all the way down until you get to that 63 and you're missing the small column. Or you could set up your WKU and say, okay, I'm going to just use my small and my total and solve that way. Either way is fine, but just know that this is another WKU situation where you would say, oh, okay, small to total. And the reason I chose small is because that's the question they're asking, and I have to use total because that's the other number they gave me. So you could set it up that way again, or you could skip count your list. And the last way that they may ask you for a WKU or skip counting situation is they're going to ask by giving you a full and complete table with an extra number, okay? They're still gonna say, based on the information in the table, so you know you're gonna use your table, and you want 40 hours. So hours is here, so I would put 40 in the list. Again, you could use any piece of this table you wanted. If you wanted to just do a straight WKU, you could cross multiply here and divide here and ignore the top, or you could find a relationship. So if you know that you're trying to find 40, well, I know that 20 is just times 2 to get 40. So I could do the same thing here and say, okay, times 2. So again, just remember you have lots of options when it comes to these WKU problems, but you're always going to know their WKU because they're going to give you at least 3 numbers. So 2 numbers here and then a number here. And again, you can use any of these 2 numbers to get your answer. Up here, we had our ratio and then an extra number. Over here, we had our 2 numbers for our ratio, and then we had, like, this would have been our 3rd number, or this would have been our 3rd number. And again, here you had a word problem where you had 2 numbers in one sentence, which makes 1 fraction, and then a number by itself, which makes it. And that is your recap of fractions in WKU.